My name is Segolene Musala. I am from the GFAN Africa Secretariat. We work with ISA and Waki Health that you already know well, and I'm going to moderate today. So just a few reminders about housekeeping. Interpretation is available for this call, so you can have English or French, depending on your language, if you click on the globe on the Zoom. And also, we are kindly asking you to keep your mic closed. And then if you want to have the floor, or if the floor is given to you, you can then open your mic to speak. I'm going to also ask for English speaker to go to the English interpretation, because I'm going to moderate in French, but most of the sessions are also going to be in English. So without further ado, we are welcoming Tabet from Waki Health to introduce us to our call. You have the floor, Tabet. Thank you.
Thank you, Segolene. Good morning, good afternoon to everyone from wherever you are. We welcome you to this August monthly meeting of the GFAN Africa Network. Just a few points to take note of. We are about halfway through the One World, One Fight campaign. This year, it's been truly energizing to see all the activities and the incredible support for the Global Fund's aid replenishment. And we are excited about what is still to come in the next few months. Just a few updates from our side. Last month, we were privileged to facilitate and host a delegation of MPs, members of parliament from the UK that were in South Africa, and they were joined by members of our national parliament delegation from South Africa. So it's an exchange visit that is happening at the moment between South Africa and the UK. And we know the alignment there it's a first, because they are the two co-host countries, a donor and implementer coming together and looking at the impact of the Global Fund investments. And so that was one of the main reasons that this MP exchange visit was the objectives. So they had both the national and the visitors had the opportunity to witness at first hand the impact of the investments of the Global Fund. I was part of the delegation, and we visited so many sites. And at some of these sites, you just see that if Global Fund is not fully funded at any point in time, there is going to be, let me just put it in this way, it will be impossible to be able to have those projects move forward, and they affect real people. What we saw on the ground, and when we speak at a higher level, in high-level meetings, there could be a disconnect. But having those MPs on the ground and having those conversations with the recipients, with the communities themselves, was truly an eye-opener, even for me, being part of that delegation. So one of the conversations that we took away from that was the encouragement between the members of parliament, that even as the UK departed to go back to their parliaments and to ensure that they also update them about the impact. And we know that they're not going to be able to we know, because we already know that they are not going to pledge at the same level, but also for them to have the conversations, the discussions in their parliament to maybe ensure that the global fund is replenished somewhat. But we know that it's a tall order for the UK at the moment. But yeah, it was actually an eye-opener. So that was the one thing that we thought we should report to you today. And then the other thing that happened this week, we held our youth forum, and it was fantastic to see so many passionate young advocates engaged in the Global Fund work. We'll continue these youth sessions in the coming months, and you will hear from some of these young advocates later today in this meeting. This is also an important week because of TCAD. Some of our colleagues are in Japan right now, and we will hear more about that today, about the campaign plans for TCAD and how you can get involved. We will also have some updates from our country partners, including Itai from Zimbabwe. We are looking forward to hearing about the work happening on the ground from each one of you. Finally, we want to thank you, to take this opportunity to really appreciate you and all the ongoing work, the dedication, and the hard work. It's our collective effort, and that really drives the success of the campaign. Without you, we are nothing. So all of us together, hand in hand, we can ensure that the Global Fund is replenished, is successful in its replenishment. With that, please may I thank you so much for being here, and back to Sekolin. Thank you for the opportunity.
Merci, Tabet. Thank you very much for this very important update. Donc, comme on peut le voir, comme on a pu l'entendre durant le mot que Tabet vient de nous partager, nous allons avoir un agenda très intéressant aujourd'hui et nous allons commencer directement avec le prochain sujet. Comme vous le savez, il y a des discours d'anti-aide au développement qui prennent de plus en plus d'espace et c'est une véritable menace au plaidoyer que nous sommes en train de mener particulièrement pour la santé, mais aussi pour la reconstitution du Fonds mondial. Donc, en tant que société civile, il est très important pour nous de comprendre comment répondre à ces messages-là, quels sont les arguments à utiliser. Et pour ça, aujourd'hui, nous sommes très, très heureux d'accueillir Priyanka du réseau GFAN pour ce partage. Merci Priyanka, tu as la parole.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to take the floor today. I would try to be as slow as possible, but in case my friends who are on the interpretation today find it difficult and I'm going too fast, please flag for me and I will slow down. So today I just wanted to bring to our GFAN Africa team and colleagues in this call a microsite, a tool that we have recently developed and launched over at GFAN. And the microsite is called Reframing Solidarity and Tackling Anti-OTA Narratives. The idea came from the sidelines of the annual meeting that we had in Canada earlier this year. And it has become very, very evident that as advocates who are trying to push for a successful eighth replenishment of the global fund, it's very difficult for us to constantly engage in the anti-ODA, anti-multilateralism narratives that are being circulated and that a lot of stakeholders and a lot of our government partners are succumbing to. So it was very important for us to create a tool that can help advocates, that is evidence-backed, that has a context-specific response that advocates can use, especially when they are met with negative or, anti-ODA sentiments and questions. and how can they effectively, fruitfully not only shape their communications, but also take it further and hopefully turn the naysayers, turn the people who are against ODA, who think that aid is wasteful and unjust, to supporters of ODA, of multilateralism, and eventually, of course, of the Global Fund, and push for a successful aid replenishment. So, this is the opening page of the microsite. I will also take you through the microsite as to how it looks later in the presentation, but you can scan the code and go on and check out the microsite right now if you'd like. I will also put the link for the website in the chat as soon as the presentation is over. So, as I said, why this tool? We wanted to create a tool so that advocates across the globe can have something ready to use, easy, to be able to counter anti ODA and anti multilateral narratives. Because there is definitely a shift, especially, I think there is the biggest case of what has happened in the US, but overall, we are seeing that people are cutting their ODA budgets for more inward looking priorities. And we need to challenge that, and we need to be able to say why it is important to continue to not just invest in overseas development aid, but also in Global Fund, and why is Global Fund different from all the other mechanisms and what it brings to the table. So, the objectives that we tried to achieve with this particular tool, or things that we set out to do, was, of course, to be able to support advocates, but also bring to you a sound body of work that helps you to get support back for solidarity, and solidarity in terms of commitment to the Global Fund. And of course, provide ready to use responses. And we envision this tool to not just be like it's done and given to you, it's a living tool. As I walk through the website, you'll see that you have the options of submitting questions from your end, the things that you have heard your stakeholders say, the things that you have come across that are negative in terms of why should we support the Global Fund, or why should we continue to send money outside the country when there are problems in our own country. So we've collated responses to questions like these. But if there is a question that we have not covered, you have the option of using the website and submitting those questions, submitting those negative remarks. And we at GFAN as a team will try to come up with an evidence-backed counter argument to that question or to that narrative. So what will you find on the microsite? You'll find three primary things. One is messaging, basically messaging anchors that you can use in your context. How we have developed this messaging is by using the data that was provided by the Perceptions Hub. I hope some of us have had a chance to look at the data that the Perceptions Hub has provided. If not, I will provide a link to the Perceptions Hub as well in the chat after this presentation is over. But basically, Perceptions Hub is a body of research that was conducted by the Gates Foundation, and it looks at the current perceptions, the current opinions that people hold about health, about global health institutions like the Global Fund, like Gavi, and what can be used to reach said stakeholders. So we've sort of distilled that and brought together the messaging and the three key anchor messaging that you can use in your communication to make it more hard hitting, to make it more evidence backed, to make it more targeted and focused. Then the second section is the engaging with skeptics. So, how does one armor themselves or have something ready when you know that you're going to approach a person who's not necessarily in favor of supporting the Global Fund or in favor of uh, aid in general, who thinks that, what has happened in the US is correct, or who thinks aid is wasteful. So how do you counter that? So this section helps you with some practical tips, at least that's what we hope, that you can use when approaching a person like this, either for the first time or in your continued communication with them. And then the third and the largest expansive section of the tool is specific pushback scenarios, which is a FAQ, or a frequently asked questions, question answer sort of a section, where we have sort of culled from different sources by talking to different partners a list of expansive questions that people are generally using to talk about aid and to talk about global fund. Things like, we have issues within our borders. Why should we be Why should we be giving money outside? Why should we support countries that do not match with the ideals of my country? Things like that. And then we've come up with answers that you can use in your advocacy to counter argue with these negative statements. How to use the tool? I mean, it's your tool. We hope that you will take ownership of it. You can scan the code here and go directly to the website. The link is also available on the GFAN website, and I'll also pop it in the chat. But it's for you to use. Our main intention was to be able to make it as easy to understand, as accessible, and as easy to scroll through. So you can use it in multiple ways as you deem fit. If there is a need for you to have a particular section or a PDF of the website, we can also make that available for your use. And I will come back to the question sections, but I just quickly do want to show you how the website looks like so that we know what we are talking about. So let me quickly share my website screen. There we go. So this is how the website looks like. If you were to click on the FAQ section, it directly to the Q&A section that I just spoke about, where you can see the different questions that we've tried to answer. We're already contributing. We can't afford to keep giving more. We should prioritize domestic issues. Why should we send money abroad? We need to protect our own borders and increase security. Why not invest in that? So it's an expansive list of questions that you can go through. And you will also find that some of these questions, the answers work together. So when you are engaging with a naysayer, you might see that just one answer might not be enough. So you can, of course, go through the entire list and see and pick and choose what works for you. And now if I were to go back to the home screen, the other section is submit a question. So you can just use this to submit a question that we have not already covered in the list. As I said before, it's an expansive list. So I really request that you go through the list in your own time and see what works. And if still there is something that has been missed, we at GFAN are always happy to take another question and hopefully come up with a supporting evidence-backed answer for it. Apart from that, there is this little menu on the top that you can use to scroll through the entire website, or you could just scroll with the help of your cursor. And these are the messaging anchors that I was speaking about, the 3 messaging anchors, which we believe are transparency, evidence-based action, and honesty about setbacks. In these messaging anchors, you'll find specific information related to the Global Fund and how you can hopefully mold your messaging to be able to get the maximum support for the Global Fund. And then if you keep scrolling down, this is the other section, which is engaging with skeptics and naysayers. So this will hopefully give you some concrete tips and tools that you can use when you are engaging with a stakeholder that doesn't necessarily have a positive view of aid and the Global Fund. So that's my quick and brief presentation. If there are any questions, I am happy to take them now, or as the colleagues suggest. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this. It's an amazing tool. Thank you, Priyanka. I can see a few hands. Maybe we start by Mr. Amart. You have your hand raised, or was it a mistake? Okay, so we have a little time for a couple questions. If there's anyone who wants to know something more about this very interesting tool just presented by GFAN, please just raise your hand and open your mic, or you can also share your questions in the chat. And Priyanka, I think, is going to send the link in the chat so that we can have, or she just send it so that we can have a more, a better look at the website. Okay, so if there is no hand now, just feel free to send your question in the chat, and we are going to thank Priyanka again. It's a very interesting tool for us, for civil society, and we really encourage all the advocates to appropriate themselves with the messages that are on the microsite. So we are going to go to the next session, and we have been talking about TCAD 9 happening. So we are going to have Karti from GFAN Africa and Ken from GFAN Asia Pacific to tell us more about TCAD 9 and what will be happening this week and what we can do as civil society. Thank you. You have the floor, Ken. And
Thanks, Evelyn. Hi, everyone. My name is Karti, and I'm the Communications Officer at Bucky Health, speaking on behalf of GFAN Africa.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ken. I'm also the Communications Officer from GFAN Asia Pacific. And I'm calling to all of you today from Malaysia, where it's quite rainy. I hope all of you are well.
Thank you so much, Ken, for joining us today. It's great to have this collaboration. We've really enjoyed working with GFAN AP, and especially for this global moment that is so critical for both of our regions. It's been a great collaboration. So today we were just going to talk a bit about our campaign plans for TCAD 9. I think you might remember that earlier, a few months ago, when we were presenting the One World, One Fight campaign, we had this slide of our key moments. And it's good to see that we've done so much, and so many of those key moments have passed, and we are basically right at the center of this timeline now at TCAD 9 happening this week in Japan. A few weeks ago, we had the civil society briefing where my colleague Fitsum was able to give a good introduction to TCAD as well as the civil society engagement through the CCFA. And we heard a lot about what that engagement looked like, and also had the civil society statement on health that was shared in previous weeks. Today, we will be focusing specifically on the Global Fund messaging within that civil society statement and some of how we are involved as Global Fund advocates specifically. But also happy to share more information about the broader process with anyone who might be interested, and continue to share the broader civil society statement along with you.
All right, so maybe to get us all on the same page, probably most of us are familiar with TCAD, but in case you're not, TCAD stands for the Tokyo International Conference on African Development, and it is happening very soon. In fact, many of the attendees and our colleagues are already in Japan for this. It is happening tomorrow and will run for 3 days until Friday. And TCAD is a multilateral conference focused on African development that is held every 3 years. It's co-organized by the Japanese government, as well as the African Union Commission, the World Bank, UNDP, and the UN Office of the Special Advisor on Africa. So the first TCAD took place in 1993. So it has a long history of about 30 years now. And the next TCAT that's happening tomorrow, starting tomorrow, is the 9th, with the theme Co-Creating Innovative Solutions with Africa. And it will focus on the promotion of innovation, which includes digitalization, engagement of women and youth, public and private partnerships, and inclusive and responsible global governance. So the basic agenda will start with an opening ceremony, and then there will be 3 sessions on themes of society, economy, and peace and stability. And even though the TCAT is not exclusively a conference for health, it is a key moment for health advocacy, and it has been in the past been a key moment for announcement of pledges to the Global Fund. While we do not expect that for this upcoming TCAT, it is still a very important time for us to refocus the narrative and refocus the priorities onto health, because there is very much a need to highlight the sense of emergency of the potential health catastrophe if we are unable to achieve a fully replenished global fund. And it's also an opportunity for us to demonstrate a strong willingness for domestic resource mobilization and the development of equal partnerships between Africa and Japan. Therefore, this is why we have chosen to focus on advocating at this point, and this is why we need your voices as well. Back to you, Kaki.
Yeah, thanks, Ken. And as Ken mentioned, we are also, trying to elevate, especially the Global Fund, but also health financing conversations more broadly and equitable partnerships and health financing at TCAD. So our colleagues Fitzum, Olivia from Impact Santé Afrique, Rachel from GFAN Asia Pacific are in Japan this week, and there is going to be an event on Thursday that is a co-hosted session about health financing. I put the poster on the side. Unfortunately, there is no virtual participation, but we will be following closely and trying to share as much as we can on social media when it's available. There are also a few other thematic sessions that they will be engaging in, including ones on sustainable health financing. There is one today about parliamentary engagement, where our colleagues are speaking with parliamentarian delegations from different countries. There is an Africa-Japan Common Vision on Health that is expected to be published, as well as engaging with other delegations, especially those focused on climate, debt relief, and the SDGs. So we will be hearing more from our delegation as this week comes on. But we want to talk a bit about what we can do mostly online and away from Japan. Wish we were in Japan, but we will follow along online. And so in addition to the thematic sessions, there will also have in-person engagements with many of the delegations and bilateral meetings. And in order to support that and show our support, with our broader voice, we've prepared an advocacy letter. So the QR code works. We'll also put the link in the chat box that we will go through some of the messaging that's in the letter in this presentation so that you know what you're asked to share. We also prepared this fact sheet about the Global Fund, especially for delegations that might not be as familiar with the Global Fund or with health, that talks a little bit about the impact, the need, and what we're asking from Japan, which is continued support, continued leadership, recognizing that they have been a champion of the Global Fund since the beginning, and we need them now more than ever. Also the social media campaign that we'll take a look at that includes some quotes and some messaging from the youth forum that we had this week. So yeah, we'll just get into it now. And as I mentioned, we'll put these links in the chat box.
Thanks, Karthi. Yeah, so we have some key messages that we want to highlight that is inside the materials we have prepared, but I think it's also important for us to highlight here. I think most important is we want to highlight that health must be central at TCAD, because even though TCAD Oh, sorry, I hear a bit of an echo. Okay. Health must be central at TCAD because we have to acknowledge that a healthy workforce and a healthy population is the foundation for a productive economy, for growth, for stability, and for sustainable development. And Africa bears a disproportionate disease burden globally, and therefore, it is doubly important for health to be part of this discussion, because challenges have been increasingly getting more and more complex through climate shocks, economic constraints, which have caused disrupted services, as well as impacts, lingering impacts due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Another message that we really want to drive home here is that Japan's continued leadership is very critical at this moment. Looking back, we know that Japan is one of the founding fathers of the Global Fund by bringing the topic of infectious diseases to the G8 agenda back in 2000, paving the way for the Global Fund to be created, as well as we also know Japan is seen as a leader in health globally and also a strong proponent of universal health coverage, as well as the Sustainable Development Goals. And they have demonstrated this by being a long-standing partner to the Global Fund, as well as the fifth largest donor to the Global Fund, having contributed 5.39 billion US dollars to date. And that leadership is more important now more than ever.
And continuing that by the message that the stakes are too high now, we need leadership now more than ever because we need to protect the progress made so far. And looking forward, the Global Fund protects us collectively for the future. This is some of that health security messaging from the Global Fund's recently released microsite. We'll also put that in the chat box that talks about the impact of the Global Fund in strengthening health systems and building pandemic preparedness in various countries. So we have some of this data in the fact sheet that again we'll add to the chat box. So we have a few graphics for social media. Please go ahead, Ken.
Oh, yes. So we have, yeah. So as Karthi mentioned, we do have some graphics for social media, which are about to be released very soon, within the next few hours or by tomorrow. So we have featured quotes from delegation members who will be attending TCAD. So we have a mixture of African as well as Japanese civil society representatives here, as well as youth youth representatives, youth advocates from GFAN Africa. And what we really want to do here is create a buzz and create awareness on the online space, so that TCAD and the discussions around health at TCAD go beyond the physical space in Japan, but also online. And we would really wish if you could keep a lookout for these posts, which will be coming out very shortly, and to retweet them and repost them accordingly as well.
Yeah, we asked that you add your messaging to the social media platforms. We have a list of hashtags as well as some accounts from Japanese delegations, Japanese officials that again we'll put in the chat box and would appreciate your participation. There's this one template that we are sharing that you're welcome to use to copy and paste. And we'd love that you answer these prompts about, what is your message to Japanese leaders and what would you want African delegations to engage on? So appreciate your support and engagement on this week, starting today through the end of Friday, really pushing these messages and tagging our campaigns as well as these officials in your accounts. I think that's it from us. Ken, any closing remarks or?
No, thank you very much. I have copied and pasted the template into the chat box. If you are so willing, I strongly urge you to copy that and paste it onto your platforms. The tags are already calibrated for X. And feel free to tag anyone else that you think is important to be part of this conversation as well. Thank you, Karthi.
Thank you both, Ken and Karti, for these very important advocacy resources that have been prepared from all of us. It's really amazing. So we can see a lot of engagement in the chat box about the presentation that was just made. I think someone is asking for access to the statement, the advocacy letter. So I think Carl is going to share the link now to in the chat, but we also had the opportunity to scan the QR code. And also Linda from the Global Fund is letting us know that there is a high-level delegation of representatives from the Global Fund in Japan. So delegates who are there or are going to attend are welcome to reach out. So I'm going to ask if there's any question or suggestion about all the resources. You can just raise your hand and then open your mic and share with us. And just a few seconds. No, okay. Matthias, you can have the floor. Please open your mic and share. Thank you. Matthias, if you're not ready.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
I'm Matthias from Uganda. Somebody's trying to call in as I talk. From Uganda, I'm part of the CCFA, Civic Commission for Africa, and I've been part of the discussions for TICAD. As far as the team has talked, they talked about Fitsum from Ethiopia, and I think he has been part of the organizers. Hopefully he's in Japan. My comment is that we have several civil society groups in Japan from different backgrounds, health and others. But of course, we have the Civic Commission for Africa, which brings us together as civil society. Looking Hope Maungu from Botswana is also there. How I wish these teams got together in Japan and we had a common front for some of these ideas, because I can see we have a very good campaign, but how do we get coordinated when we are in such platforms? I think it's very, very important so that we speak one language and therefore do very, very positive advocacy. Thank you for coming. Thank you. Over.
Thank you so much for that intervention. Completely agree on that coordination. We've been working very closely with CCFA and have inputted into the civil society and community statement. So we presented one specifically on health, but also inputted into the broader cross-agenda statement. As you mentioned, our colleagues in Japan will be working together on a few of those thematic sessions in the days coming up. Thank you.
Thank you, Karti. We are going to take one last person. Sophie, please, you have the floor for your question or comment. Sophie, can you hear us? You have your hand raised.
Sorry, I lost connection for a bit. Thank you so much for the presentations and all the work. It's really incredible. Our delegation, so I'm Sophie, I'm the constituency focal point for the Developing Country NGO delegation that sits on the board of the Global Fund, and we are doing some letter writing. My question is now a good time to write a letter as TCAD is happening? And do we expect Japan to make an early pledge now, or is it too soon? So 2 questions. Thank you.
Hey, Sophie. Thank you for the questions. Let me jump in with with my 2 cents. I think to the second question, I don't think there is an expectation for an early pledge at this point during TCAD. We are expecting the pledge to be announced perhaps a bit later, in perhaps late September, I believe, because there are some political processes that may have to happen first, which has not happened yet. That is what we have heard from our Japanese colleagues. Regarding whether it's a good time to write a letter, so GFAN AP is also working on a letter to be sent to Japanese leadership. We are currently not releasing it in to coincide with TCAT, but we would love to work coordinate with you on the timing. Definitely would love to discuss. We are hearing waiting to hear from our Japanese colleagues on the best timing on this. And perhaps we can connect and we can time this action together. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. So we close this session now, and we thank again Karti and Ken for the very important resources that have been shared. So even more important is after this meeting to use the graphics on social media, to post on social media using the prompts and the hashtag, and inspire ourselves with the messages from the advocacy letter. The links have been sent in the chat, so really feel free to click and use. Thank you, guys. We are heading to our next session, and we are welcoming Itai. If a few of us remember at our last meeting, we introduced a campaign, a fabric campaign that's happening now. And each fabric represents a particular story from someone regarding the fight against HIV, TB, or malaria. So we are going to hear from Itai today about some new updates about the fabric campaign. Itai, I hope you are here and you have the floor. Thank you.
Yes, Madam Chairperson, thank you very much. And let me start by saying good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on your location. So yes, my name is Itai Rusike, and I'm with GFAN Africa here in Zimbabwe, and also with the Community Working Group on Health, which is the biggest health civil society network in Zimbabwe. So maybe before I start sharing about the fabric and also the One World, One Fight campaign that we had during our National Heroes Day commemoration last week, I just wanted to share with you that, GFAN Africa in Zimbabwe has also been riding, on the existing health civil society network. And this has really made our life a lot more easier because the existing health civil society network already has the institutional, relationship, with the government through the Ministry of Health, where we already have a memorandum of understanding with the Parliament of Zimbabwe, where we also have a memorandum of understanding. As we are aware, parliaments in the SADC region in Southern Africa, opened up, under their reforms to open space for civil society engagement. And we were one of the first, CSOs to sign a memorandum of understanding with the Parliament of Zimbabwe. So we have an open invitation, to participate in parliamentary, processes. So this has also really made it easier for us as GFAN Africa, to ride on the, existing, relationships. So next slide, please. Okay, so like I was saying, in terms of the engagements, I think as GFAN Africa, we really started, the Global Fund 8th replenishment engagements by engaging, at national level. Like I said, where we already have, these platforms and spaces, through the institutional relationships that we have with the Ministry of Health, with the Ministry of Finance, and also with the Parliament of Zimbabwe. So next slide. So we also engaged, with the highest office, in Zimbabwe, And here I'm talking of the president, His Excellency. As we are aware, Zimbabwe has been making some symbolic contributions, of 1 million at every, Global Fund replenishment. I think in the last 3 or so replenishments, they've been making, a symbolic contribution of 1 million US dollars. For us, I think it shows some really highest level of political will and political commitment. But this time around, we have also sent our letter to the office of the president, requesting them to also increase, their commitment and also to make their announcement earlier rather than wait for the replenishment conference. We have also engaged, with the our Minister of Health and also our Secretary of Health to remind them of the 8th replenishment and also the commitment from the government of Zimbabwe. And we are hoping that this time around the government of Zimbabwe would also be making maybe an increased commitment to the 8th replenishment. Next slide, please. We have also engaged, with the public health, advisor to the office, of the president. And she's very key in terms of that line of communication, for us as civil society. And the good thing is she also used to be, the permanent secretary, in the Ministry of Health. And during the 6th replenishment in Lyon, France, during that time, she was still the Secretary for Health. So she has a lot of institutional memory in terms of the Global Fund replenishment. And she has been one of our, key, focal points in terms of engaging the government. And similarly, we have also briefed the Deputy Minister of Health in Zimbabwe so that as a team, they can have a greater appreciation in terms of their commitment to the Global Fund. And I'm happy to say late last year in November, we were also given the responsibility to provide the logistical aspects for the Zimbabwe National Health Financing Dialogue. And as civil society, it was really a great space for us to also bring a lot more CSO voices to this high-level meeting on health financing, which was also supported by the Global Fund in terms of the financial support. We have also been engaging with the Parliament. As we are aware, Parliament, plays a key role. Next slide, please. In terms of putting together the budget and approving the budget. So we have been engaging, with both the chairpersons of the Health Committee in Parliament and also the chairperson of the Finance Committee. But most importantly, we have also been reaching out, to the Minister of Finance. As we are aware, this is the person who then, allocates the resources to the various, sector ministries. Even though Zimbabwe has not yet reached the 15% Abuja commitment, but over the last 3 or so years, we have seen a very encouraging trend in terms of percentage, allocation, to the health sector. So the Minister of Finance to us is very key. And also the chairpersons of the parliamentary portfolio committees for both the Health Committee and also the Finance Committee are also key in terms of domestic resource mobilization, especially given the current situation where there are less and less resources coming in from external donors and external partners. Next slide, please. In terms of embassy engagements, we have also been taking advantage of the national days. The French, they have their Bastille Day, and as civil society, as GFAN Africa, we were also invited, to join and celebrate the Bastille Day. which was also a great opportunity for us to present, our key, requests, to the French government in terms of them, also prioritizing, this eighth replenishment. We have also engaged with the World Bank, country office, the manager for the World Bank country office, to appraise here in terms of, the work that civil society, especially GFAN Africa, is doing to support, the Global Fund, eighth replenishment. Next slide, please. We have also engaged widely with the other, various embassies. The British Embassy, we also engaged with the British ambassador in Zimbabwe, and we were also invited to a dinner, that was hosted for the UK Minister for Africa, Lord Collins, and GFAN Africa was one of the 3 CSOs, that were invited to the dinner that was hosted for the visiting, UK Minister for Africa, Lord Collins. And it was a great opportunity, given that, the UK government is going to be a co-host for the replenishment, to also engage with the Minister of UK for Africa in terms of the 8th replenishment, and he made his commitment at that meeting that the UK government will definitely show its leadership. Next slide, please. We were also at the, King's birthday for the UK, and it was an opportunity to present, our letters to the EU, to present our letters to the Spanish government, the ambassador to present to the Australian embassy. We also presented to the, other, embassies that were attending, the UK Prince's birthday, the King's birthday, that was hosted by the, British Embassy, in Zimbabwe. Next slide, please. So for the One World, One Fight campaign, here in Zimbabwe, we took advantage of the National Heroes Day commemoration, which is commemorated annually on the 11th of August. And this is the day that we also hosted our One World, One Fight campaign, where as GFAN Africa, we also were joining a powerful, storytelling, initiative with Fabric as a tool for advocacy. As you are aware, Fabric, is a powerful medium, in many African countries. So we had some young people, the youth, that also came to this One World, One Fight campaign. We also had a very strong representation of, HIV activists, TB activists, malaria activists. We also had, the media that also joined us, including, some government and also embassy, officials. So initially, when we printed the headgear, we thought we were mainly targeting the women and girls, and we only realized during the day that everyone also wanted a piece of the headgear. And here in Zimbabwe, we had the bandanas for the young ladies, and it was quite, encouraging to see also the male participants also donning, the headgear, on their necks. And we also printed, the placards with the different messages. There was one on the 23 million lives, and also the other one on the One World, One Fight campaign. But we also printed some very beautiful notebooks, and I'm hoping that we can also share these with the other colleagues from other countries. I don't know which other maybe opportunities that we can use to share some of the materials that we printed. And we also had T-shirts on the day. So it was a really day of fun and most importantly, a day to remind each other on the challenges that most African countries are currently facing in terms of the funding, situation. But I think what was also great was, the testimonies that were, made by, some of the colleagues, on the day, very touching, testimonies on, the support of if it was not for the Global Fund, unfortunately, these are some of the colleagues that we could not maybe even have at this, meeting. And we also had some very good articles, that were written by the media personnel that attended, this campaign. Maybe the last slide, I'm not sure if there's still any other slide. It really was, a very, educative day in terms of bringing, various stakeholders together. We did not have this in a hotel setup, but we utilized the office space where we brought together all these various comrades, and then at the end of the day, we had a very, delicious traditional lunch that was shared. So for us, the One World, One Fight campaign will continue, and will continue donning this regalia to various other, spaces, platforms, and as a reminder, of why we need to see a fully funded, global fund. So thank you very much to GFAN Africa. Thank you very much to the Global Fund, for supporting us here in Zimbabwe for our One World, One Fight campaign. Thank you.
Thank you, Itai. We can see that in Zimbabwe, things have been moving, and it's really inspiring, the pictures to the materials. And we thank you for amplifying these stories. And it's very important that we hear from people living with this. So I don't think there is any question on this update. But if anyone needs it, the record of the presentation is going to be shared afterwards. And since we are mindful of time, we are going to slide directly to the next and final presentation. And we are going to give just a few minutes to Miranda and Natasha to give up updates about the youth forum. Thank you.
Thank you so much to the chairperson. And I'd like to mention that Miranda won't be joining me on these updates because she's held up with something. With that said, my name is Natasha Nakanika from the Youth Platform, and I am pleased to share the brief updates of the Global Fund Africa Youth Forum, which was held on Friday last week, 15th of August. So we had an incredible turnout with over 130 young people from 27 countries globally that participated in the Youth Forum, which was very exciting. And the forum had three main purposes. The first purpose was to reflect on the Global Fund Earth replenishment and why it is important for young people. And then the second one was to deliberate on advocacy messages that we want to take forward to the Japanese government ahead of TCAD, as we have heard that TCAD is starting on the 21st or 22nd this week. So yeah, and then the third purpose that why we held the youth forum was to agree on a clear strategy on how young people will continue to engage in the earth replenishment process meaningfully. As you heard from the welcoming remarks by Tabeth, she mentioned that we are halfway to the eighth replenishment, so we need to continue inputting the effort so we don't have to slow down. That is why we had the youth forum. So during the youth forum, we had outcomes that messages that young people were shared during that forum. So during the forum, young people developed powerful advocacy messages that are currently under design and are being packaged for use of TCAD and Global Fund aid replenishment. So allow me to cite 3 examples. The first one is continued Japanese support to the Global Fund means giving young people in the most affected communities a fighting chance to live healthy, productive lives and to end epidemic for good. The second one was investing in the Global Fund secures the future of young people across the world, the future of humanity. And the last the last response that I will cite is: we thank Japan for the past leadership in health and gender equality and ask for continued support to protect young people and build a fairly healthier future. So these are some of the messages that young people managed to share during the youth forum, and then which I mentioned that are being packaged that are going to be used. So the youth forum also agreed to continue youth engagement through the One World, One Fight campaign with monthly youth forums, and the next youth forum will be held on 19th September 2025. So be sure that you are part of that youth forum. But in between these youth forums or engagements, we are all committed as young people to like keeping the fire burning and continue advocacy and collaboration through in-country engagements like the previous speaker has mentioned, as well as social media campaigns, as well as update meetings just to see how other countries are doing, if there is need for help, and so on. So finally, on behalf of the Youth Forum, we want to extend an open invitation to everyone. These calls are not just for young people by age, but they're also for young people at heart and those people that are passionate about these cause. So we'll be able to we'll be sharing the links through the GFAN Africa listserv and encourage wider participation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Natasha, for this work, and thank you to the young people for your engagement. So we are at the end of our annual meeting, except there's anyone who wants to intervene again, we are going to close. So I'm just looking at any last hand that I could have missed. No one, okay. If not, well, we just want to thank you on behalf of the GFAN African Secretariat. Thank you all very much for your active participation today. We have had a really rich discussion. We looked at how to address anti-OED narratives. We explored upcoming opportunities. Let's remember that there's TCAD 9 this week, and there are a lot of resources that have been shared for us to use. And we heard about inspiring campaigns, updates from different countries and initiatives. So let's just keep circulating the information and making use of the One World, One Fight campaign tools and ensure that our voices are heard. We really count on you to take these messages back and use them. We thank you again for your time, your ideas, your commitment, and we look forward to our next call, which is going to happen on September 18th. So 1 month from here, and in the meantime, please keep engaging and sharing through our WhatsApp group. Thank you again so much, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.